Have you ever felt frustrated by how long it takes to learn something new? Whether it's a complex programming language, a new musical instrument, or even just mastering a challenging concept for an exam, the process can often feel like an uphill battle against your own brain. You spend hours reading, watching tutorials, repeating information, only to find that much of it seems to vanish the moment you close the book or turn off the screen. This isn't a failing on your part. It's often a failing of traditional learning methods, which are fundamentally misaligned with how your brain is actually wired to acquire and retain information. What if I told you there are specific neuroscience-backed strategies, true mental hacks, that can dramatically accelerate your learning process, allowing you to absorb new skills and knowledge in a fraction of the time? This isn't about magic. It's about understanding the intricate machinery of your brain and leveraging its inherent capabilities for maximum efficiency. In this video, we're going to dive deep into the science of accelerated learning, dissecting the most effective techniques that cognitive scientists and neuroscientists have identified, and showing you exactly how to apply them to hack your brain for superior skill acquisition. Prepare to fundamentally transform the way you approach learning. The conventional wisdom often dictates that learning is a passive process. Sit, listen, read, absorb. This couldn't be further from the truth. Your brain is not a sponge. It's a dynamic network of billions of neurons constantly forming and strengthening connections. Passive consumption, like simply rereading notes or watching lectures without active engagement, creates only weak, transient connections. Information enters your short-term memory, but without deliberate effort to consolidate it, it quickly fades, much like a path untrodden in a dense forest. This phenomenon is famously illustrated by the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve, which demonstrates how rapidly information is lost over time if not actively reinforced. To truly learn, to integrate new knowledge into your long-term memory and build robust neural pathways, you must engage in active, effortful processing. This means moving beyond merely encountering information and instead compelling your brain to work with it, manipulate it, and retrieve it. The key distinction here is between recognition and recall. Recognition, like seeing an answer in a multiple-choice test, is a lower-level cognitive function. Recall, on the other hand, demands that your brain actively reconstruct the information from scratch, a process that significantly strengthens the underlying neural circuits. This brings us to our first and arguably most powerful mental hack for accelerated learning: active recall. Active recall is precisely what it sounds like. Actively retrieving information from your memory instead of passively reviewing material. You test yourself on it. Think of it as a mental workout for your brain. Each time you successfully recall a piece of information, you're not just confirming that you know it, you're actively strengthening the neural pathways associated with that memory. When you struggle to recall something, and then successfully retrieve it, that effortful retrieval process creates an even more potent learning event, solidifying the memory more effectively than if you had recalled it easily, or just reread it. How do you implement active recall? There are several highly effective methods. One of the simplest and most accessible is the flashcard technique. But with a crucial twist: don't just review them. Create them, then actively attempt to answer the question on the front before flipping it. Another method is self-quizzing. After reading a section in a textbook or watching a segment of a lecture, close your notes or the video and try to summarize the key points in your own words. Ask yourself questions like, what was the main idea here? Or, how does this concept relate to what I already know? Even better, try to explain it out loud to an imaginary audience or a pet. The act of articulation forces your brain to organize and retrieve the information coherently. Neuroscientifically, active recall works by engaging the hippocampus, a brain region critical for memory formation, and prefrontal cortex, involved in executive functions like retrieval. Each successful retrieval attempt reinforces the synaptic connections between neurons involved in storing that specific piece of information. This process, known as long-term potentiation, makes it easier for your brain to access that information in the future, effectively carving deeper, more robust grooves in your neural landscape. The harder your brain works to retrieve something, the stronger the memory trace becomes. So, embrace the struggle. It's a sign of powerful learning taking place, building on the foundation of active recall. Our next essential hack is spaced repetition. If active recall is about how you retrieve information, spaced repetition is about when you retrieve it. Remember the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve? It shows that we forget most rapidly soon after learning, and then the rate of forgetting slows down. Spaced repetition strategically schedules your recall practice at increasing intervals, precisely when you're about to forget the information. This method optimizes the timing of your review sessions to maximize retention with minimal effort. The idea is elegantly simple. Review new information shortly after learning it, then again a day later, then 3 days later, a week later, 2 weeks later, a month later, and so on. Each successful recall at these expanding intervals tells your brain, this information is important, keep it. This process systematically moves information from your short-term working memory into the stable, long-term storage areas of your brain. Instead of cramming, which leads to temporary gains and rapid forgetting, spaced repetition builds durable, accessible memories over time. While you can manually implement spaced repetition with a calendar, digital tools like Anki have revolutionized this technique. Anki is a powerful flashcard program that uses an algorithm to automatically schedule your reviews based on your performance. If you find a card easy, it will show it to you less frequently. If you struggle, it will show it again sooner. This personalized approach ensures you're always reviewing the right information at the optimal time, preventing both unnecessary over-repetition and premature forgetting. From a neuroscientific perspective, spaced repetition leverages the brain's mechanisms for memory consolidation. When you learn something new, initial memory traces are fragile. Repeated exposure and, critically, repeated retrieval at increasing intervals allows for synaptic consolidation to occur. This involves structural changes at the neuronal level, making the connections more permanent and resistant to decay. It's like building a bridge. Initial construction is quick, but repeated stress tests and reinforcements ensure it stands the test of time and traffic. By timing these reinforcements, just as the memory starts to weaken, you maximize the efficiency of this consolidation process. Beyond specific techniques, true mastery of accelerated learning involves metacognition, the ability to think about your own thinking, to understand how you learn best, and to monitor your own learning process. It's about becoming a strategic learner. This involves a growth mindset, the belief that your abilities and intelligence can be developed through dedication and hard work, rather than being fixed traits. Carol Dweck's research on mindsets clearly demonstrates that individuals with a growth mindset are more resilient, embrace challenges, and ultimately achieve greater learning outcomes. When you encounter difficulty, a growth mindset frames it as an opportunity for growth, not a limitation. Furthermore, we cannot discuss brain hacks without acknowledging the fundamental role of basic biological needs. Your brain is an organ, and like any other, it requires optimal conditions to perform at its peak. Sleep is not merely rest. It is a critical period for memory consolidation. During deep sleep, your brain replays and organizes the information learned during the day, transferring it from the hippocampus to the neocortex for long-term storage. Chronic sleep deprivation severely impairs this process, making learning inefficient and retention poor. Aim for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep. Nutrition also plays a vital role. A diet rich in omega-3, fatty acids, and in essential vitamins and minerals supports brain health and cognitive function. Think brain-boosting foods like fatty fish, berries, nuts, and leafy greens. Hydration is equally important. Even mild dehydration can impair concentration and memory. And of course, regular physical exercise increases blood flow to the brain, promoting the growth of new neurons, neurogenesis, and enhancing synaptic plasticity, making your brain more adaptable and receptive to learning. These aren't just general health tips. They are non-negotiable prerequisites for an optimized learning brain. Let's integrate a few more advanced hacks into your toolkit. The first is, instead of blocking out time to study just one subject or skill intensely, interleaving involves mixing different related topics or problem types within a single study session. For example, if you're learning different types of math problems, instead of doing 20 problems of type A, then 20 of type B, interleave them. A, B, C, A, B, C. This technique forces your brain to constantly retrieve the correct strategy for each problem, improving your ability to discriminate between different concepts and select the appropriate solution. Rather than simply applying a memorized procedure, it builds a more flexible and robust understanding. Another powerful technique is elaboration. This involves connecting new information to what you already know, forming a richer, more complex web of understanding. Ask why and how questions. How does this new concept relate to something I learned last week? Can I draw an analogy? Can I explain this concept in different ways? The more connections you make, the more retrieval cues you create, making the information easier to access later. Creating elaborate mental models rather than isolated facts dramatically enhances retention. Finally, one of the most effective ways to solidify your understanding and ensure true mastery is to teach others. When you have to explain a concept to someone else, you're forced to organize your thoughts, identify gaps in your own understanding, and articulate the material clearly and concisely. This process engages multiple cognitive functions, active recall, elaboration, and organization, making it an incredibly potent learning strategy. If you can explain it simply, you truly understand it. So, to recap these powerful mental hacks. First, ditch passive learning. Embrace active recall by testing yourself constantly. Use flashcards, self-quizzing, and summarize without notes. Second, supercharge your memory with spaced repetition. Optimizing your review intervals with tools like Anki Third. Cultivate a growth mindset and use metacognition to optimize how you learn. And fourth, remember that your brain's performance relies on your foundation. Prioritize sleep, nutrient-rich food, and movement. Blend in techniques like interleaving and elaboration, and never underestimate the power of teaching what you've learned. By applying these principles, you aren't just studying harder, you're studying smarter. You're leveraging your neurological architecture to accelerate your journey, absorbing skills not just in half the time, but with a depth traditional methods can't match. The power to learn faster isn't a mystical gift. It's a skill you can master by hacking your own brain. Now, if you're ready to make this upgrade permanent, joining the VF Growth Tutorials community is the best way to stay ahead. If this video sparked even one aha moment for you, letting the algorithm know with a like helps us bring more neuroscience to your feed. I'm also curious, which of these 4 hacks are you going to test first? Drop a comment below. I read every single one. And if you know someone struggling to retain information, sending this their way might be the exact tool they need to turn things around. Finally, don't stop the momentum now. YouTube is already queuing up the perfect follow-up video to this one right on your screen. It picks up exactly where we left off. So click that next to continue mastering your mind.